Now, in May, a lot of young people are graduating, and some older people too. So we have other goodbyes and new starts, but today's guest, I think, is the absolute perfect fit for these transitions. We speak today, as we already mentioned, to the author of Beginning Well, Joel Stepanek. Thanks so much for being with us, Joel. And you're in a much warmer place than here, isn't that not the case?
Oh, so much warmer. It's 102 degrees today in Phoenix,
Wow.
Arizona.
Very good. And you're originally from Green Bay, right?
I am. I'm from the Green Bay area in Wisconsin. You can see I represent my home state always.
That's how I knew.
It's an absolute gift to be in Arizona, though. There are a lot of transplants in Arizona from Wisconsin, so we've got a nice little community here.
That's
we
great.
all embrace the heat together.
Great Skype, too. You must have good internet at your place.
Well, I think the heat maybe amplifies the signal a little bit. I
Oh,
don't
is
know
that
how
how
that
it
works
works?
from a scientific perspective, but let's just go with it, huh?
Yes.
We're going to go with it. And the spring, this time of year, as I already alluded to, marks many goodbyes to schools, to classmates. How can we figure out ways to say goodbye, yet at the same time still be enthusiastic about what lies ahead?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because change makes us a little anxious. It makes us sad having to experience an ending and let things go. I think the way that we do that is a bit countercultural because it involves grief. If we want to let go, I think we have to grieve the things that we're letting go of. And that actually allows us to joyfully enter into something new. When something ends, sometimes we don't like the feeling of sadness or grieving something. So we try to avoid those emotions or numb them or move on or maybe get overly excited about whatever new thing is happening. But whatever we're leaving behind in the past, that can linger a little bit. And when it does, it may be a couple weeks, it may be a couple of months, we start to look backwards and think, oh, remember how things were, at my old school, at my old town, at my old job. Even some people, and this is perhaps the most tragic, when I was single, remember life back before I was married. And all of those things are symptomatic of not taking time to grieve and let something go. But if we want to really be excited about the new thing, we have to give ourselves some space to do something uncomfortable, which is actually be sad, remember what was good, and then grieve it and let it go.
And Joel, I think that moves perfectly into our next question for you. How do you recommend doing just that, where we can bridge between the old and the new?
I think rituals are so important, and we know that in our faith, right? We have rituals that commemorate beginnings. We have rituals that people go through during RCIA. So we finished up the RCIA process for catechumens and candidates over the past couple of months. They've been preparing, but as they go through that RCIA process, there's rituals. And I think rituals help us transition, but we're not always good at knowing what they are. So I encourage people when they're experiencing an ending to really ritualize that. If you are leaving a job, get together with some of your coworkers or some of your friends. Remember the good things from the job. Celebrate those things. Share stories with one another. Sometimes we do this organically, but sometimes we miss this step. So having a ritual that moves from one thing to the next thing is important. Having rituals that help us engage in a good start. So in an exercise program, a simple ritual for many people, it's kind of strange, is buying new shoes. I was a personal trainer for many years, and that was one of the first questions I would ask people when they came in to set up their first appointment. I'd say, have you bought some new shoes yet? Something about the ritual of going to the store and buying some new shoes gets us excited for the new thing and helps us be prepared in that excitement for some of the challenges that any new beginning is going to bring. But ritualizing our endings and our beginnings is a key piece to transitioning well.
Joel, I've had many first years over the years, and the subtitle of your book is 7 Spiritual Practices for Almost Anything. I want people to get the book, so I don't want to give it away, but can you give us an example of one of those practices?
Yeah, one of them, and this is actually at the end of the book, so you've got to read all the way through to get to it, is joy. Anytime we enter into something new, especially if it's a beginning that we're excited about, there's a feeling of joy. We're excited, but that joy can quickly fade when we enter into some of the challenges of a new beginning. But joy just isn't something that sustains a new beginning, right? It's a spiritual disposition. Joy helps us to endure adversity well. It helps us to stay centered on Christ. It helps us to have hope. And that's what I love about the book is each of the spiritual practices, joy being one of them, not only helps us be successful in our first years and our new beginnings, but it teaches us something about the spiritual life as well. And in that, every first year, every beginning can become an opportunity to grow in relationship with Christ, because one day there's a big ending, and on that same day, there's a big beginning too. And I want people to be able to walk into eternal life on that big beginning when we cross from this life into the next.
That's great. And Joel, this next question resonates personally with me because I'm the product of a Life Teen program at my parish. So you serve at Life Teen in Parish Services as the VP, and in the book you address the variety of goodbyes teens make, as well as those in parish life during a time, especially of pandemic. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I think one of the really unique things about this particular book was that I wrote it during the COVID-19 pandemic. And when I first took that job as the vice president of parish services at Life Teen, it was just a few months before our world really shifted. And so what we did over those few months was walked parishes and teens through some of the goodbyes and some of the changes that they needed to make. Suddenly, we weren't going to graduations, and that was tough for young people. So it was stepping into how do you help young people find new rituals and routines to celebrate those things. And in parish life, we had to say goodbye to some things as well over that period of time. And as we said goodbye to some things, there were some new things we started. And now I think we're in a period of how do we hold on to some of the good things that we learned during that period of time, some of those good beginnings? And maybe there's some things that need to end now because that period of time is in one phase, over, and we're entering into a different phase with that. But yeah, teenagers, they say goodbye all of the time. Their life is marked with transition. And I think one of the mistakes that people in parish ministry sometimes make, and all of us, is that once we're out of high school and college, the transitions stop and we kind of get into this long period of, stability, but we're beginning all of the time. And I think that was one of the challenges we had at Life Team, was helping parishes and youth ministers begin ministry in a new way. And so many of them did, and it was absolutely beautiful what the Lord did through that work.
Joel, we're almost out of time. I'm just curious, because Monet works in one of the parishes here in the Archdiocese of Boston that has Life Teen and Edge. Any updates or new things coming the way of Life Teen?
Absolutely. We've got some exciting things happening in our digital space. So we're going to be releasing some new resources and some new ways to access those resources. We're going to be expanding some of our teams to serve parishes even more effectively and help walk with people as they create not just youth ministry for now, but youth ministry for the future. That's our real focus, is how do we help parishes create sustainable youth ministry that doesn't just end when a youth minister leaves, but becomes the very heart of the parish and brings renewal and growth, and doesn't just bless the youth of the parish, but every single member of that parish as well. So I'm excited for what's lying ahead and what we're going to be able to do to continue to serve.
Great. And where can people get a copy of your book, Beginning Well? Because we're always coming up to new beginnings.
You can find that at Ave Maria Press's website, avemaria.com.
Well, Joel Stepanek, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in the living room. It's been great to meet you. Hope to meet you in person sometime. But God bless you and all of your great work.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed the conversation.